Hi everyone, I'm Stefanny Balestracci.
And I'm Sierra Carroll.
Welcome to Prescribed Vibes. This is a podcast where we will talk about all things mental health, and we're so excited to kick off this journey with everyone.
Yes, we're both therapists who are passionate about making mental health conversations more accessible, relatable, and down to earth. Whether you're new to therapy or you're a seasoned pro, this is your space to learn, reflect, and feel supported.
So before we dive into today's topic, we want to take a moment to introduce ourselves and share why we're even doing this. So Sierra, why don't you start?
So I'm a licensed therapist. I've been in practice for about 7 years now, on and off, focusing on trauma, ADHD, anxiety, depression, do a lot of EMDR. I've always believed that mental health deserves the same attention and care as physical health. And I think that this podcast is going to be a really great way to reach out to people and break down some stigmas and mysteries, help people feel more comfortable, more confident going into therapy, even just pursuing that type of growth for themselves. So I'm excited for this platform.
I love that. And I'm also a licensed professional counselor, and I've been in the field for since 2010, also on and off, just like Sierra. I used to work for University of Phoenix and I got my degree there, and then completely changed directions and started doing more of the mental health world. So what I want to make sure is that people understand that mental health really is for everyone. It's not just something that you're going to turn to when you're in crisis. And it's something we're going to be talking a lot about in our podcast episodes. So I also specialize in trauma, and I have a passion for using EMDR and focusing on individuals that suffer from anxiety, depression, life transitions, and anything in between.
Cover the gambit between the two of us.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about what is therapy. It's talked about often. Thankfully, it's much more accessible and acceptable than it has been in the past. It's a good time to be a therapist. It's a good time to go to therapy. But it's not always fully understood, and there is still a lot of stigma and apprehension around it for a lot of people, I think. So, Steph, let's talk about the basics. What is therapy?
Right. It's a pretty good question to ask, because I think people go into it like, oh, I'm going to see a shrink, or what's wrong with me, or tell me what to do. It's really meant to be a judgment-free zone like Planet Fitness. It's safe, confidential, a place where you can explore your thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and just, I look at it as self-discovery and in ways to increase self-awareness, because we all have blind spots, and ways to look at the world differently, understand some of your limited beliefs, and learn more about coping skills, and just having a supportive partner when you're looking at personal growth. So you can really make it whatever you'd like it to be, with the exception of thinking that your therapist is a friend.
Is a friend who is going to tell you what to do.
Right.
But I love that label of having a supportive partner in your personal growth. And I agree. I think the self-awareness and the self-discovery is really kind of the meat and potatoes about what we do. The more you learn about yourself, the more power and control you have. It's fun to watch. It's fun to be a part of. We're passionate about what we do. So let's talk about what therapy isn't.
Yeah. So I think it's really important to clarify that. Like you said before, it's not a place where you go to for advice. At least if you have a good therapist, they're not going to be telling you what to do or making decisions for you. It's not meant to be a quick fix. It is a process. It does take time. So although we may share tools, strategies, give you, psychoeducation, the real work comes from collaborating between you and your therapist, and you being willing to put in the work. I know that for myself, when I go to therapy, I ask for homework sometimes, or books or podcasts, things that are going to contribute to what I'm working on, so that I see results a little bit faster than just going once a week, shutting the door, and never thinking about what I just talked about again. So it's a two-way street, and I emphasize this with clients. I tell myself to put in the work in between sessions.
Yeah, because that's what it is. I mean, it's not a magic wand that we can just wave and everything's better. Simply going to see a therapist. Well, I'm going to therapy, so everything should get better. That's the first step, but there's work involved, and we have to be dedicated to that process in order to see the outcomes we want to see. So it's important to know that my therapist is here as that partnership for growth, but the work and the accountability is on me, and hopefully with a good partnership, whether that is, worksheets, podcasts, books, whatever type of homework or goals you're setting with that therapist, hopefully it's going to be designed in a way that sets you up for success. So knowing yourself and what you're looking for is going to be helpful in fostering a good partnership with your therapist.
Exactly. And, speaking of that, when do we know it's time to go? So what are some indicators that signal, hey, you probably need to go back and see your therapist? For me, it's when I start noticing that my symptoms are increasing, or if I'm second guessing myself, my anxiety is increasing, or I feel demotivated, lacking self-confidence. Sometimes it can be something very specific that has been going on, issues in my relationship, or how I feel about my career or my relationship with my children. So there's really not a bad time to go. We joked around about this before where I said, you can go when things are going really well. Why not? If you want to go and have your therapist as a sounding board and just process and celebrate the things that are going well, go for it.
Yeah, definitely. Celebrating the things that are going well, preparing for the future. Like, hey, I'm doing okay right now, but I know that when these types of scenarios happen, I tend to handle them this way, and I want to be prepared to do that differently in the future. It's also a really good time to work on the past. We need to be in a good, stable place in order to be able to tolerate something like EMDR or trauma therapy. And so when like, okay, everything in my present is going pretty well, but there are some things from my past that I probably need to look at a little bit closer. Maybe now's a good time for that. So never really a bad time. I mean, any type of dysfunction, and not feeling like you have clear direction on where to go with what it is that you're struggling with, or you don't have clear tools and an understanding of how to cope with or process through whatever it is that you're experiencing right now. It's really like having a bit of a mentor or a guide through some of those more challenging things. And it's okay. No one is born inherently knowing. There is no handbook we all receive as far as how to navigate our emotions or, challenging life situations. So it's okay to need some counsel in that. That's what we're here for. What can someone expect during their first session? That first session is likely what's bringing up most of the anxiety, right? It's kind of like ripping a Band-Aid. So what can we expect? How can we ease people's minds a little bit going into their first session?
Right. Automatically, I thought first date. I don't know why. It's like,
Yeah.
nervous. What are they going to think of me? So really the first session is about you getting to know your therapist, being able to ask your therapist questions, and sharing your concerns, what's the presenting problem, what brought you to therapy. It's an opportunity for you to ask questions about the process if you're new to therapy, making sure that you're clear on your goals and that your therapist can collaborate with you on what your long-term or short-term goals are for therapy. So it's really an opportunity to get to know one another, and it should not feel like an interrogation. Hopefully you walk out of your first session feeling full of hope and relief that you have, been able to tackle this and be able to move forward with next steps.
Yeah, it's okay to feel nervous. That's totally normal, and your therapist should know how to navigate that with, trying to create a welcoming and non-judgmental space. But to go in, kind of clearly knowing what it is that you want, what you're looking for, what you think will work for you, what doesn't. But I also think that can be sustained across the lifespan of the relationship too. If something changes, we notice something's not working. I don't like, how you went about that, being able to consistently guide and communicate with your therapist what you need, and them being able to pivot with you. I think a lot of times we don't get the opportunity because we don't know what we don't know. So having that rapport, the relationship, to be able to say, hey, this is what I want. this is what I'm looking for. Can we do that?
Right. And it's too, it's an opportunity for you to make sure that therapist is a good fit because not every therapist is going to be a good fit, and that's okay. I mean, it sucks, right? You go in, you just word vomit sometimes, and you're like, ugh, this person was not what I was thinking it was going to be. So don't get discouraged. It happens. Just make sure that you are able to have consults in the future. A lot of therapists offer that, and it's okay. It's important that you do feel a connection, though.
Yeah. So how do we go about finding a therapist and finding the right one?
So there are several ways of doing this. I would suggest looking at online directories such as Psychology Today or Therapy Den. If you have insurance, you can also call them to see what providers are in network and then looking up that provider or asking your friends or family. Sometimes they have personal recommendations that can be helpful. What are your thoughts, Sierra?
Yeah, I mean, I think personal recommendations are fantastic because you're already familiar with that person. You've got a trust in them. You know the person you're referring them to. So I think that's great. But it's definitely okay to shop around. And if you have a consult with someone, and even if the vibe just isn't right and you can't place it, but I don't think so. Or, they're going to be working more with these modalities while you're interested in these other ones, or you like a lot of homework and they don't give a lot of homework. You want to be challenged. They just want to listen and support. I mean, there's, again, knowing what it is that you're looking for, what you would hope for. And some of that's going to be trial and error. Maybe you don't know until you get in there and you see what you don't like. But knowing that it's okay at any point to decide, I don't think that this is working for me anymore, or this might not be a good fit, and I'm gonna change course, and don't let it deter you from pursuing what it is that you're trying to pursue with therapy. There are plenty of therapists out there who are ready to help, and if we can get past the challenge of kind of starting back to square one, it's definitely worth the work to find the right fit for you.
Right. Exactly. It really is about what feels comfortable and supportive for you because I tell clients ultimately this is your life and it's also your money. So please advocate for yourself and no hard feelings if I'm not the right fit.
Oh, I think no hard feelings is such a good point. I think a lot of people come into therapy worried about hurting our feelings or letting us down, things along those lines. And so, I would encourage you guys to know like therapy is for you. And while we are invested in our ways and we obviously want you guys to be successful, it's all you. You're not going to let us down. You're not going to disappoint us. It's okay to tell us what works and what doesn't. Hopefully, again, just having that clear, good rapport, the ability to communicate to each other so we can have the most success.
Preach. I agree. So, moving on to what is a diagnosis?
What's a diagnosis? How do we use it?
I see a diagnosis as a tool. I don't like looking at it as a label. I use it as a way to educate the client and so that we have a roadmap of what is going on, what are they experiencing, what are those set of symptoms. And for me, I use it as a guide. If a client comes in with a very specific diagnosis and they feel that this is going to be helpful for them, great. I'm not going to challenge that, especially not the first session. We can use the diagnosis, no problem. But for me, ultimately, I look at it as a tool and a guide, and it's just one part of the picture. What about you, Sierra?
Yeah, it definitely doesn't define you. It's a tool, not a label, but I think there are some of us who do tend to define ourselves based on a diagnosis. And I think that can be a space where some good work can be done as far as looking into that a little bit further. So really just meeting the client where they are and where do you sit with this diagnosis? What does it mean to you? Do we need it? Do we not? Do we use it? And in our work together as far as some sort of guide or being able to understand ourselves a little bit better. But we are not the diagnosis. It's, what symptoms, what dysfunction in our life are we struggling with, and how do we work to improve that? We're not going to change a diagnosis, and the diagnosis does not become who we are.
Right. And it's totally okay to ask those questions if you're unsure or you really want to understand more about the diagnosis instead of going home and going to Google or WebMD, go ahead, ask those questions, email your therapist that you'd like to talk more about it in the next session. Now we're going to talk about cost. So how do we approach cost, Sierra? What are your thoughts about financing and affording therapy?
Yeah, I know that's a big concern for a lot of people. First, starting with, do I have insurance? And if so, I'm calling the number on the back of my card to find out what is my copay for therapy. That's the quickest and most accurate way to find out what you're going to be responsible for when it comes to your sessions. If you don't have insurance, if your copay is more than paying someone privately, there are definitely options for that too. There are sliding scales that some therapists will offer based on your income or what you're able to afford. There are interns. There are companies like BetterHelp where they'll do financial aid based on your income and things along those lines. So there's definitely options when it comes to being able to afford therapy. Accessibility is, again, much better than it used to be. So don't let that deter you either. What would you add?
I think that you pretty much summed it up. I can't think of anything else besides really understanding what your insurance covers, doesn't cover, and trying to ask even therapists for resources. There is OpenPath that does sliding scale. Some practices offer sliding scale if you don't have insurance. And just asking questions, not being afraid to learn about what resources are out there.
Yep, absolutely. All the questions, anytime. We're happy to help. We'll guide you the right direction if we don't know. Don't be afraid to ask.
That's right. That's what we're here for. And we hope that you email us questions that we can cover in the podcast. So today we really covered a lot of different things regarding the foundation of therapy. And we understand that it can be a difficult step, but we are here for you as well. We may not be able to get to all questions, but this is a big part of why we created this podcast, is because we're passionate about it and we want to open it up for people to have another platform.
Exactly. I think we just want to create a space of comfort and information when it comes to your self-discovery, your healing journey. And whether that involves therapy or not, or whether you're just listening to podcasts like this and reading good self-help books and having good self-care practices and those things. I mean, there's no right or wrong way per se, but if we can spread some good information and maybe even help some folks understand what paths to take for themselves, it's really all we ask. We're here to help. So if you're considering therapy, don't be afraid to reach out. Take the first step. You deserve support. There's people out there willing to help you.
Yep, we're going to be diving into all topics, regarding mental health. So we're excited. Please stay tuned. Email us if you have questions or topics you'd like us to cover. We're very much open and excited. This is for you. Although Sierra and I are going to have a lot of fun doing these, please don't be afraid to reach out and give us some feedback. We're very much open to making this the best and most fun place for you to be a participant or just listen.
Yes. And thanks for bearing with us, as far as this first session we're in therapy already.
I love it.
I know this first episode goes, we really just wanted to kind of set the foundation, but we will definitely be acclimating a little bit more to this whole process and just kind of opening up to being ourselves and talking about things that are hopefully going to be attention grabbing and informational and things that you guys can take away. So thanks for being here for this first episode of Prescribed Vibes. Take care, and we hope you guys will listen next time.
Yes, thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you next time.